Hi everyone. The TD Ottawa Jazz Festival would like nothing more than to welcome you to our main stage at Confederation Park, downtown Ottawa. That's our home. But as we all know, that's not going to happen. So we've got the next best thing and are bringing the music to you through a series called Tenacity, which will unfold every day for the next 10 days and will feature some of the brightest and most unique artists from all over the world. You'll get to meet and hear artists from Berlin, New York, Boston, Vancouver, Ottawa, Serbia, and other places. This series is different. This series is Jazz Today. It's vibrant, courageous, tenacious, and masterfully original. Thanks for joining us. This is Jazz in 2020.
Good evening once again, and welcome to OLG Chats. I'm James Hale from Downbeat Magazine, and each day of Tenacity, I'll be talking to some of the incredible improvising artists who will be sharing their music with us. Tonight, we're going all the way to Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. It's an ancient city that dates back to about 878 AD, and we're joined there by reed player Hayden Chisholm, who is not Serbian, but a New Zealander. Welcome to OLG Chats, Hayden.
Thanks so much, James. It's such a big pleasure to be here. And I was just wondering if it's okay before we start the interview, if I could give a quick musical greeting to my dear friends back home. Would that be okay?
Sure.
All right. Koe matu e tu nei, ki e to, taranaki e. Thanks. That was just for my friends back home in New Zealand and some of my friends here in Serbia who are listening, maybe who don't speak English, but they know what I mean. It was a bit hello, and thanks for having me. Yeah.
That was beautiful. Oh, I think we're done. That's it.
Okay. So
thanks so much for coming by.
Big pleasure. Always.
So let's begin with the obvious. How did someone from New Plymouth find his way to Belgrade?
Ooh, yeah, it's a long story indeed. I was.
Well, we've got time. It's okay.
I left my home country when I was 17, and I was looking around Europe for a place to study, and I was pretty lucky after a long time to. The last thing I tried after I failed several schools was Cologne in Germany, and I ended up there and I studied there, and it was a beautiful time, and I stayed there a good 16 years in Cologne. Always went back there, and it still is like a home for me. And I was traveling a lot after that. All through the years I was a touring musician pre-corona. and along the way I had lots of experiences and came here several times, and I'm here for family reasons now. I've got two sons here in Serbia, and I've been here about 2.5 years, coming up 3. And the whole time I was moving around as I've always done as a freelance saxophone player, but since I came here in that time I've been just looking for ways to get a little bit closer to the culture, and that's how a little bit this event tonight came to be, getting to know some musicians here. But so the short story is I've been here coming up 3 years, and but I was very lucky before that to have seen like a really good portion of the world and to been to a lot of places. And that's an experience I especially treasure right now.
Tell us about Dorćol, the area that the musicians you work with come from, and the culture of the coffee houses there.
Sure. So I ended up moving down here, which is like a suburb in the lower part of the old town in Belgrade. In Belgrade, you have two rivers that meet, the Sava, the very slow Sava, and the mighty Danube. And we're just right down, like tucked next to the Danube. And it's a really interesting part of the town. It was traditionally a real mix of cultures. And I happened to hear a lot sort of distant violin from over several nights, and I was always wondering who was playing that. And I ended up going to one of these little places called a Kafana, or traditionally a coffee house, to meet this guy, and that's how this kind of story came about. I was looking around since I moved here for musicians, people that could be interesting to, listen to and play with, and especially maybe for me it was the language, because it wasn't so easy, in the middle of your life to suddenly relocate to a place and pick up a language. But as a musician, I was quite interested to maybe learn some songs, and so I started to do that as best as I could, to help me understand, where am I, what am I doing here.
So the coffee house culture, how far back does that go into antiquity? Is that sort of back in the early days of the city?
Well, I noted in your introduction, you obviously know more than me about the history of Belgrade as far as the dates go. So I couldn't tell you the right dates. There was obviously a long, 500 or so year period of occupation, as they might say here.
Mm-hmm.
That culture was very much, infused into the culture here. The modern day version is a traditional place where you can get like traditional foods, cevap, like sausages and stuff like that, rakia. And where there's often music. It's a bit of a dying breed. It's changed a bit and morphed over the years. And this particular one's just a small little place where these local musicians who are gypsy musicians, who live here and play quite often for just events and so on, play in these kafanas. It's a bit of a different culture to what I came from because, we get together in New Zealand sometimes and we, play the odd song. But here it's more of a request culture. So the musicians come to the kafana and they really go from table to table and everyone asks a song. And something that was very beautiful for me to come here was to learn how many people know so many songs. There's such a rich heritage of song here. And what's maybe a bit different to my country, or maybe even yours, is that when people come together, they maybe know, 5 or 10 songs. But here it's like literally hundreds, even thousands from the whole, territory of ex-Yugoslavia. Plus, these Egyptian musicians have their own language, their own repertoire. So you have all these kind of, repertoires here, and it's quite beautiful to see how people, sing along and know the songs. It's been one of the nicer things for me here.
Well, yeah, in Canada, if you have like 5 Neil Young songs down, you're okay.
You're good to go.
You can busk for a long time with those 5 Neil Young songs. So according to everyone's favorite source, Wikipedia, about 30,000 of Belgrade's 1.5 million residents are Roma descent. Can you talk about the gypsy culture, the influence on the city, and kind of what marks the Roma culture there?
I mean, remember, I'm a New Zealand guy who came here to, make his way. I'm learning my way. I'm learning it through music. So I've been very lucky to get to know some of these musicians. They're fantastic, and I've kind of won their trust a little bit thanks to my saxophone, but maybe a little bit more thanks to my cooking, because I started to cook in this kafana for the parties, and then slowly, bit by bit, they liked my spices and stuff, so on. And I won their trust, and we're friends. So I've started to get to know a little bit, the subtleties of these relationships. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I've lived there for a long time. They are very respected, but I can tell you it's like a bit of a work in progress for me. I've been focusing on the songs. It's very, very interesting for me because back when I was a young guy, I went to India, studied there several times, and spent a good deal of time there studying mainly Carnatic music. And it's very interesting for me to be here in Serbia and to somehow feel a very, very deep connection to that place. Also, the travels and the songs they're able to play, but it's I really take it mainly musically. For me, the real details are in the music, like how they do the songs, play the songs, which songs they play, the text of the songs, and that's been a real learning experience for me. As you say, there's a lot of them here. From my little tiny world down here in Dorćol, it's quite well integrated, mainly through the music. Yeah, but I'm just a new guy here, so I'm not the expert by any means.
Yeah, I mean, here in the West, jazz fans are familiar with, the music of Roma people of Belgium and France and Spain as filtered through musicians like Django Reinhardt and more recently Barelli Legrand. What are the musical threads that you hear in the Roma music of the Balkans?
Yeah, I mean, they're very aware of that stream. That's like another stream that runs a little bit parallel here. I haven't been so involved with that one myself. The one here is a little bit more influenced by, let's go following it back to India, and also the Serbian songs, which they, transform. What I was going to say, there's a definite style of playing, in saxophone. I just have to note, I'm a jazz player. I grew up playing jazz. And since I moved here, of course, I play with the guys and I kind of, let's say I do my best, I play with them. but I have no illusions that I'll ever authentically play this music. I'm a big lover of collecting songs and connecting with musicians. In this particular case, it was my way of even just surviving here to really understand the place. And for me, they were the ones that really took my heart because they're really open to play anything or take any song. So if I bring along a song, it could be anything, some blues thing, they're really happy to kind of assimilate that and take it into their repertoire. So they're very, very open. Whereas there are some other beautiful forms here, different kinds of traditional music that are not quite so open for me as that particular culture. If some New Zealand jazz saxophone player comes along, not every group that would say, okay, let's do some stuff together. Yeah.
No, I mean, some people here are familiar with some of the music of the Balkans as interpreted by jazz musicians like Dave Douglas with his Tiny Bell Trio, and there's other examples as well. I'm wondering, without going too far into music geekdom here, what types of scales are they working with over there? Are they like sort of traditional European scales, Western scales, or are they using influence of the East as well?
I mean, they have like a saying here in Serbia. They say, we built a house in the middle of the roads. I mean, they're kind of like they've always been between the empires. Coming from the south, coming from the north, relatively small country, and that's reflected absolutely in the music, many, many different beautiful ways, which you can sometimes pick up in the songs. So they have elements of this, Arabian or Turkish makam coming in, but using the kind of diatonic scales we have from the north. It's really like a meeting point in many, many ways, melodically, like harmonically. Also in the words and the texts, and also within Serbia itself, which has some beautiful differences between the south and the north and the east and the west. And it's really absolutely a melting point, even with the instruments, taking the brass instruments of the north and combining them with these scales, or let's say these slightly makam Arabian scales with the notes that are moved around a little bit. So for me, it really sounds like a real melting pot in a way. Which has been a fruitful thing for me.
Can't wait to hear it. I'm sure the rest of the viewers agree. So maybe you could introduce us to the musicians that you're playing with and what we're going to hear in your performance this evening.
Sure. So the first guy I ever met here, when I came to this little kafana and asked who's playing violin, they all said he's called Paganini. I said, Paganini. So that's his nickname. They all have nicknames here. His name's Zelko Paganini Stefanović, and he's like a local violin player who plays all the time. He's quite well known in this suburb, and he plays weddings and parties, and he's a wonderful man. And I thought with this thing for Ottawa, it'd be nice to portray them a little bit. So I made a small little presentation of the concert we did. Many of the buildings around here have been ripped down bit by bit. And we've got this little theatre. We're still able to play it, which is wonderful, run by a friend of mine. And so he's playing violin, and then on guitar we have a guy called Vanya Stoikov, who again, I'm just like a new guy here, but he's the best guitar player I've heard. He's just an amazing guy. And he's a beautiful loose cannon. Enough said of that. And then we,
every band needs one of those.
Every band needs a loose cannon. And then on keyboard, so they call it a shabanizer, kind of like electric keyboard here, is a guy called Miroslav Stanojević, who never plays a solo. He just always grooves. He's always with the band. Beautiful guy. And the three of them play together, and I join them, and we call ourselves the DK Heroes, which stands for Dorćol Kafana Heroes, which is how we started and always played at. So those are the band. And I especially made for this little thing a couple of cuts to Paganini's house where we had the dress rehearsal, just because I thought it would be nice to show a little bit some different faces of this beautiful town and how the music came together.
All right, well, let's get to it then. You've been listening to Hayden Chisholm, and we're going to hear his music with the DK Heroes right now. Thank you so much, Hayden, for joining us.
Thanks so much, James. Yeah.
Music brings us together even when we're apart. That's why we're so proud to support Canadian music through events like the TD Ottawa Jazz Festival. It's just one more way that the TD Ready commitment is building a more inclusive tomorrow. Enjoy the show.
Jutros mi je ruže?
Moje maline?
Ne.
Moje maline.
Gemol.
Gemol. Pa Luis?
Gemol.
Iške panje?
Adu, slušaj. Znaš,
I može... Uvijek. Uvijek.
Come on, let's go! On y va! Tout de suite.
Tout de suite.
Pozdrav svima, ja sam Željko Stefanović, zove me Paganini, sviram violinu i srce.
Sad idemo kući. Dobrodošli, welcome with the DK Heroes, and on piano we've got Miroslav Stanojević. And on guitar we have Vanya Stoikov. Yeah. And my name's Hayden, and to my left is Zelko, Paganini, Stefanović. And we're really happy to have a small audience, check us out, and to play for our friends in Canada for the Ottawa Jazz Festival. And we thought we'd make a little live concert out of it. And hope you enjoy this little live concert.
Dankeschön, Dankeschön.
Šta hoćeš, Hayden? A? Doza violin onda? Dobro.
Sendem la butlačo, kana tu bultegera, lačo svato taj pakim, ante mone lače bra. Me sendem la butlačo, kana tu bultegera, lačo svato taj pakim, ante mone lače bra. Kaj god te vlade teža, sima pakim tajana, mo praleca uvek pijav, Viski taj me baktjana, kaj god te vlame teža, sima pakim tajana, mo praleca uvek pijav, viski taj me baktjana, baktjana.
Mete mângro platke jazz, svakonez pakiv kaj das, kad ja penda dragodel, sloga busa tebe. Mete mângro platke jazz, svakonez pakiv kaj das, kad ja penda dragodel, sloga busa tebe. Kaj god te vlame teža, sima pakim tajana, mo praleca uvek pijav, viski daj me baktjana, kaj god te vlame teža, sima pakim tajana, mo praleca uvek pijav, viski daj me baktjana.
kažem ocu kad me pita gde sam, s kim sam, kako sam, šta radim, šta da kažem, šta da slažem sad, a da ga ne rastužim, da mu bol ne pričinim. Šta da kažem majci što mi nema, da se javim u dom da je svratim. Šta da kažem, šta da slažem sad, a da ja ne rastužim, da joj bol ne pričinim. Nedelja i svi ste tu, sve podsjeća na sreću. Nedelja, a više vas ja zagaliti neću. Nedelja i svi ste tu, a mene s vama nema. Daleko negdje sam, na put bez povratka, vaš sin se sada sprema. Daleko negdje sam, na put bez povratka, vaš sin se sada sprema. Vaš sin se sada sprema.
Bravo!
All right. Does anyone not want to be at that club? If so, just get out right now, because you don't belong here. That was so great. This evening from Serbia, you've been listening to the music of Hayden Chisholm and the DK Heroes. And Hayden was saying to us during the video that that bar, coffeehouse, is threatened right now, and probably won't be around too much longer because there's so much development in that neighborhood. That would be a shame, because that just looked like a whole lot of fun. We hope you've enjoyed this Tenacity presentation. We really hope you'll be able to join us for more. We're going to be back in just a while at 7 p.m. Eastern this evening with 4 of Ottawa's leading musicians, Steve Boudreau, Michael Hanna, John Geggy, and Roddy Elias. That's a lot of star power. That's coming right up. So join us back here at 7. I'm James Hale. See you soon.
It's fun when they stick around.